Now, I want us to look at this example while ngisaphuma khona ngiseza la. This is one of the questions that came out in one of the years. I cannot recall the year, but one thing that is very nice about hyperbola, the questions do not change. We always get the same questions but with different graphs. So here we are given the sketch graph of f of x, which is negative 9 over x minus 1 minus a 2. We are also told that point A is the intersection of your asymptotes. Well, it means ngisho noma ngaba bashongo ukuthi A is the intersection of the asymptote. So now we know ukuthi here, that is where your asymptote will intersect. Now, by looking at the graph, it's very easy to see what are the equations of the asymptote at this point. Ngoba ngithemba na, if you're looking for the horizontal asymptotes, uvele uthi kusale bani lapha minus 2. It means y equal to minus 2 is my horizontal asymptote. If I'm looking for the vertical asymptote, you take this x minus 1 all up with denominator, you equate it to 0 and you find the value of x. So if I were to find the value of x here, I was going to get to x as a what now? As a positive 1. Then as they are saying now, write down the coordinates of A. But what is A? A is the intersection of our asymptotes. Now, how are we going to find the coordinates of A? It means we must first give the asymptote there. So if I'm given this equation, what will be your asymptotes there as checking? We will have y equal to a negative 2. What is this negative 2? This negative 2 is our horizontal asymptote. We also have what? X equals to a positive 1. Will x equal to a positive 1? This is a vertical asymptote. But we know A is the intersection of our asymptotes. Therefore, the coordinate of A must read as what? As 1 and a 2. It means these coordinates, we have a point which says 1 and a 2. So the answer for A should say 1 and a 2. The intersection of our asymptotes there. Always remember, here something very special is happening. You will have two asymptotes. So the two x of symmetry, there's that x of symmetry that is decreasing, and there will be that one that is increasing. So now we'll discuss that. Now let's look at the second question. Determine the coordinates, right? The coordinates of the x and y intercepts of f. Now, every time the question says find the x-intercept, you always make y 0. Every time the question says find the y-intercept, you always make x to be a 0. So if you look at B here, I am looking for the x and y-intercepts, and I know what is the equation of f. It means I need to go to the equation of f and make x be 0 to find the y-intercept. So if I'm looking for the y-intercept, it doesn't matter. Now, I'm looking for the y-intercept. I'm going to make x be 0. So you go to the equation, instead of x, you put a what now? A 0. It means I will have what? Y, ozolingana no negative 9 over, instead of x, you place a 0 now. It's a 0, minus 1, minus a 2. Then from here, you'll be able to find the value of the y-intercept. Obviously, this will be a 9. Why is this a 9? Because 0 minus 1 is a minus 1. Minus 9 over negative 1 is a 9. Minus a 2. Now, what is a 9 minus a 2? I am getting a 7. So, what is my y-intercept as a coordinate? I made x a 0 and I obtained the value of y, which was a 7. It means my y-intercept is a 0 and a 7 as a point. What am I missing now? I am missing the x-intercept. How to find the x-intercept? I am going to make y be equal to 0. Now let's make y 0. It means I will have 0. Y 0 is equal to negative 9 over x minus 1 minus 2. Then from here, it's a matter of solving for what now? For x. It's easy to say, what if I move this minus 2 to the right hand side? And I will end up with what now? A 2 on my left, which is equal to negative 9 over x minus 1. Then from here, we must solve for x. They will say you do cross multiplication. They will say you multiply each term that is there by the LCD. It doesn't matter. At the end, you'll end up with a 2 times x minus 1, which is a negative 9. Then from here, I can multiply inside by 2. I'm getting 2x minus a 2, which is a minus 9. Now I can move a minus 2, I figure by positive, and I will get what now? 2x, which is a negative 7. Why negative 7? Because if I move a negative 2, I figure by positive. Now I end up with a negative 9 plus a 2, which is a negative 7. Now, dividing by 2 on both sides, this gives us a negative 7 over 2. It means, what is your x-intercept now? It will be negative 7 over 2 and what? And a 0. So we have responded to the second question, which wanted us to determine the coordinates of the x and y-intercept. A common mistake from learners here is that they will be able to see that's okay, I'm looking for the y-intercept, then they will make x0, which is fine. Then they will forget the question, which if we have any question, the coordinate, then they will stop at y equal to 7. Then the mark is gone already. Same with the x-intercept, because you are looking for the x-intercept. You must give the coordinate. They are saying they want the coordinate. You can't stop at x equal to negative 7 over 2. You must give the coordinate. Now, this is what they will do in the exam. They will stack at the question. They will say, determine the x-intercept, determine the equation of the asymptote. Then they will say, hand sketch. Look what is happening here, but now, they want us to state the domain and the range. Remember, what is the domain? A domain is a set of all values of x for which your graph is defined. What is the range? A range is a set of all values of y for which your graph is defined. If I am looking at this equation and I am to find the domain, how to find the domain of a hyperbola? You are going to say x is an element of real numbers, right? But this graph will not touch or will not intersect with the vertical asymptote. What is the vertical asymptote, guys? This is the vertical asymptote. This is the one. It means x is an element of real numbers, but x no one. So this is now my domain. Let's check range. Remember, the range is a set of all values of y for which that graph is defined, of which the graph exists. It means what is going to be my range? Going to say y is an element of real numbers, but y must not be equal to the asymptote. Which asymptote am I referring to now? The horizontal asymptote. What is my horizontal asymptote? It's a negative 2. So y was the negative 2. You get a mark, you get a mark. Be very careful here. Study the graph. If you look at this graph, or every time when you interpret any graph, move from left to right. That's the mistake you must not do. Always move from left to right. If you move from left, this graph is there. The graph is there. The graph is there. The graph is still there. But when you reach this point where x is 1, the graph does not touch this broken line. Remember, what is this broken line there? This broken line is the asymptote. It means the graph is discontinuous at this point. I exist. But after, just after 1, the graph is there. We should a domain, a set of all values of x where this graph exists. Iwana wonke ama values of x ngaphandle kwevele yodwa and your value banina 1. Hence, we are saying x is an element of real numbers, but to x angalingani no 1. But in range again, you focus on y man to move vertical. As come when you must move, but you see when you move vertically, the graph is there. The graph is there. And moving up, the graph is there. The only time the graph is not there is along this line, which says y is equal to a what now? A negative 2. It means what is happening along this line, y equals to negative 2? We have an asymptote. It means this graph can take any values of y except 1. And which value is that one? That one value that you cannot take is when y is equal to a negative 1. So this is how you state your domain in the range of the hyperbola. Then they say to us now, write down the equations of the axis of the symmetry. What type of a graph are we working with here? We are working with the hyperbola. If I'm working with the hyperbola, not hyperbola, if I'm working with this hyperbola, manga axis of symmetry are possible. They are always 2. It's just that the question will drive you in the exam. In this case, they did not tell us ukuthi bafuna yiphi. So we'll be looking for both axes of the symmetry. Remember, there's the one that is increasing and there's that one that is decreasing. So athola kanjani ama-axes of symmetry wethu? There's that one which says y is equal to x plus a c. Always it's x plus a c. And there's the other one which says y is equal to negative x plus a c. Lama equation into common ngawo mabili ukuthi adlula kwiphonto elifanayo. Yiliphi iphonto elifanayo adlula kulona? Adlula lapha ya ku-A. Upon A uyini? We-intersection of your asymptotes. Now, ake siwatholeke lama axes of the symmetry. Sizowathola kanjani? So to find these axes of the symmetry, because the question did not specify which one are we looking for, we are going to say there are two possibilities. There's the one which says y equals to x plus a c, and there's the other one which says y is equal to minus x plus a c. These are your axes of the symmetry. But awukwazi ukuyishika nje in ama values of c ongawazi. How then are you going to find the values of c? You must substitute a point lapho ku-intersecta khona amani na ama-asymptotes. In this case, what is our point? Point A. What is our point A? It was an answer yalapha A, and the answer was x wakhona beku-1 and the y value was a negative 2. So this is the point we are going to substitute. Why are we substituting this point? Because I just said to you, lama lines omabili, lama line of symmetry adlula kwiphonto elifanayo womabili. So ngoba adlula kwiphonto elifanayo womabili, we will substitute the very same point on both of them. So asiqale ngale. So it means ku-y I'm going to place a negative 2. Ku-x I'm going to place a 1, and I will record the value of what now? Of a c. Because now we will end up saying this is a c, this is a c. I always prefer to say call this one c1 and you can call that one c2. To indicate because these two values are not the same. Then here I can work out c1. What is my c1? It's a negative 3. But what is my c2 here? Okay, well here y is now x minus a 3. This is my line of symmetry. The other one, instead of y, I'm putting a negative 2. Right, instead of x, I'm putting what? A 1 plus a c2. Now let's find c2. Remember, this is negative 1. If I move a negative 1, it becomes a positive. Then you end up with c2, which is a negative 1. So what is the axis of the symmetry? This side is that y is equals to negative x minus 1. Now my lines of symmetry. Let's start with this one. This is a straight line that has a positive gradient with a y-intercept of negative 3. It means I can draw this line as long as you must make sure that when you draw this axis of symmetry, the one is increasing, it will be a straight line. Now, take note. What will be the y-intercept of this line of symmetry? Now, equation it will be a negative 3. Obviously, the x-intercept will also be a 3. This is the equation which says y equal to x minus 3. That is your line of symmetry. Let's be y is equal to minus x minus 1. It's a decreasing. Yeah, decreasing. In negative. Now, if you have a point elifanayo with a what? With a y-intercept engine, oh, negative 1. Remember, this is a negative 2, so negative 1 is somewhere above there. So it means we will have a line also and this will be y equal to minus x minus 1. Should the one y-intercept it will be a negative 1. Yabo, these two, low na low, are a line of symmetry. And pin the foot in the exam or in a test, they usually specify to say, find the axis of the symmetry. That is a positive gradient. If that was the question here, this was going to be our answer. But if the question is BT, find the axis of the symmetry that has a negative slope or a negative gradient, this is the one that we're going to find. So you need to listen to the question. What's it in the question 18? If una in, then E. Write down the new equations of F, if F is. These are the questions where learners will lose marks. This is why you get easy marks here. You see all these questions, the reflection and the shift. Let us talk about the reflections. What are you doing when you are reflecting the graph? Well, we need to focus on two reflections. the reflection along the y-axis and the reflection along the x-axis. What is happening? Let's focus on the first one. What is happening when you reflect a graph, any graph, along the y-axis? If I reflect a graph along the y-axis, this will not any graph of f of x. Take note of that one. If the reflection is along the y-axis, then this graph changes to f of negative x. Look at the difference between these two. This is what I had, f of x, but now I'm having what? F at negative x. What am I doing here? I have reflected to f along the line my y-axis. It means uma bengafuna ukisho kanje bathi the reflection is along the y-axis, bangavele bathi is reflected about the line which says x equal to 0. Buka, ula not x equal to 0 konde usuku kuphi? Kuma y-axis u-x usuke ubani? U0. So a statement esithi ke reflected about the y-axis will give you the same result as the statement esothini reflected across the line which says x is equal to 0. So this is what happens if the reflection is across the y-axis. This is what is happening. But if you have f of x and you end up with negative f of x, you have reflected to f now across what? The x-axis. Negative. So there are two reflections. It's the reflection along the y-axis and x ukuthabe negative, and the reflection along the x-axis and y ukuthabe njani abe negative. Ukade. If benqene ukuthi it's the reflection along the line ukama y-axis, they can say it's the reflection along the line which says x is equal to 0. If benqene ukuthi it's the reflection along the x-axis, bangavele but it's the reflection along the line which says y is equal to 0. Remember, y equal to 0 ula kuma x-axis. That is why ngithi mina a reflection along the x-axis and the reflection along the line y equal to 0 into eyodwa. Ngama x-axis equation yakhona ithini? Ithi y is equal to 0. Ake sibukeke manje ke ngokwe point. Ithi lento ke, if you have a point, say your point is x and y for now, from a general point of view. If you reflect this graph along the y-axis, ubani oshintshile, ushintsha x waba njani? Waba negative. So what will be the new point now? It will say negative x and what? And y. So if you see this movement from here to here, x will say negative. It means this point was reflected along the y-axis. But if I reflect the very same point along the x-axis, ubani osazoba negative manje? Y. So what will be the new point? Izothi x and a negative y. Ake sibukeke ngokwe equation ngoba thina laba sifuna ini kahle kahle na equation. So we go to the equation that was given to us. Siyayibuka ithini? Ithi f of x is negative 9 divided by x minus 1 minus 2. This is the equation. Let's reflect this equation across the y-axis. What is happening? X must be negative. Why? Because the reflection is along the y-axis. You are saying f of a negative x, this is minus 9 over x ngiyofaka banike manje x ngiyofaka negative x. Now minus 1 usakhona minus 2. But uyibuka ayibukeka le equation le. Okusho ukuthi lana any mistake ufanele igadi. Yazi umfundi uzolingeka uthi hayi lo negative they will cancel out, and that is mathematically incorrect. Instead, when you need to say now negative 9 wami ukhona, then there's a negative, then you can factor out a negative. Mase kusala banike lapho x plus the 1. It means lo nalo bayafana, because if you say negative times x, I'm getting a negative x. Negative times positive 1, I'm still getting a negative 1, and this is still a minus 2. Now you can say a negative divided by negative to give you what now? A 9 over x plus 1 minus 2. This is the new equation. It comes right. If the reflection is along the x-axis, what is happening? Now, yeah, sure. If you reflect a graph along the x-axis, the value of y becomes a negative. It means I will have what now? Negative f of x. Negative what? F of x. You're negative f of x man. take note. La, kusho ukuthi nakhona I still have negative 9 over x minus 1 minus 2. So I'm going to divide that over negative 1 across. If I divide by negative 1 across, I'm getting the new equation to be y equals to. Divide by negative 1, this becomes a positive 9 over x minus 1. If I divide by negative 1 here, I'm getting what? A positive 2. Then I'm getting this new equation. It means this equation is the result of reflecting f of x along the what? The x-axis. But this equation is the result of reflecting f of x along the what? The y-axis. So you need to make sure that you understand these two types of reflection along the x-axis and along the y-axis. This one, shift. What is happening when you shift the graph? It means you are moving the graph. Yes, you shift. You're moving the graph up or down. Now, how are we going to give the new equation if we are to shift the graph of f? I am shifting now the graph of f. I wasn't a shifter group. It's very simple. This graph must be shifted by 2 units up. It means this asymptote here, ABU minus 2, is no longer going to be at minus 2. If you shift it by 2 units up, it is now going to be at what? At your x-axis should be at 0. It means, suddenly in there, look at, oh, the horizontal asymptote, I change a man yobo 0 main statistic graph here, but let's see. So if I'm shifting the graph of f by 2 units up, I will have a graph which says y equals to f of x. I'm shifting y, remember, 2 units up. But if it was a 2 units down, I was going to subtract a 2. A down, you subtract a 2, a up, you add that value. It means, what is the new equation? F of x is what? There is your f of x. It says negative 9 over x minus 1 minus 2. This is f, right? Plus a 2. You saw this happening now. Negative 2 will give us a 0. It means our equation would say negative 9 over x minus 1 plus a 0. Now, to realize that from here, the horizontal asymptote is at a 0, which is what we predicted. Which if we move this graph by 2 units up, this horizontal asymptote will no longer be here. It will be here now, which is what you can observe from the new resulting equation. Then the last question will say, shifted by 2 units to the right. This one is very important. You must pay attention on this one. If you shift the graph horizontally, something strange is happening there. You would expect to say, if I shift this graph by 2 units up, obviously this point that was there has to move by 2 units towards your right. Now, buga. I guess focus with vertical asymptote. Ubani vertical asymptote x equals to 1. I guess if I'm shifting, as the asymptote, umang shift on 2 units, right. It means it means this asymptote will no longer be at 1, but instead of 3, because there is a horizontal movement of what? Of a 3. The 1, 2, because I'm shifting the graph by 2 units to the right. But what am I going to do with equation? You go to the equation. What is the equation there? It was f of x. So the new equation, you then say f at now, x. I'm shifting x, remember, I'm moving horizontal. If I'm shifting by 2 units to the right, you are going to go to the equation. You replace x with x minus 2. You don't replace x with x plus 2. You replace x with what? With x minus 2. You'll see just now. Let's see. Let us go to the equation. Where we see x now, we are replacing x with what? With x minus 2. So this will give us a negative 9 divided by what? X minus 2. Remember, we are replacing x with what? With x minus 2. Usa con minus 1. Let me bring back the negative 1 that was initially there. Minus 2 is still there. So now what is happening? I have negative 9 over x minus a 3 minus a 2. Now do you realize, the new asymptote will be x equal to 0 now. So what I need to emphasize here is that if the movement is towards your right, when you go to the equation, you replace x with x minus the shift. But if the movement is towards your left, you go to the equation, you replace x with x plus so that you can be able to find the correct value. But to the actual points, you do what is expected. If you are to move this point, isn't all right, you are supposed to add with graph. Right. I hope that makes sense. Now, I want us to move on now and look at the parabola.